The sound of his hand connecting with my face cracked through the glass walls of my office like a gunshot. It wasn't just the sting on my cheek that burned. It was the silence that followed. A silence thick with disbelief, shame, and the ghostly echoes of laughter from the other offices. I stood frozen, hand trembling as I touched my skin. My own body betrayed me. I didn't pull away. I didn't scream. I just looked at him. "Next time," he said, voice low and commanding, "stay out of her business." He didn't even look back at me when he walked out. His tall, broad-shouldered frame cutting through the doorway with a confidence that belonged to someone who believed he owned the air everyone else breathed. And behind him my wife, Alina, lingered for a second too long. Her eyes avoided mine. "Lena." My voice cracked. "What was that?" She didn't answer. Just followed him out, her hair brushing against her shoulder in that familiar way that once drove me wild. The door clicked shut, and my office became a mausoleum. I could still hear the faint ring of the slap in the walls. It was louder in my head. It started weeks ago, the small shifts I had tried not to see. Alina had been different. Colder, distracted. She used to text me during the day, sending jokes, recipes, songs. Then her messages became shorter. Then they stopped. When she started going to the new gym, I thought it was just her trying to blow off stress from work. I even encouraged it. God, I encouraged the thing that would unravel my life. "He's my trainer," she had said once, brushing me off when I asked about him. "Don't start, Nora." But it wasn't how she said it. It was the defensiveness in her tone, the tiny flash of guilt she didn't hide fast enough. Now the slap wasn't just pain, it was confirmation. A punctuation mark at the end of every doubt I'd silenced. By 3 p.m., everyone in the building had heard. I could feel the whispers curdling in the hallways, like smoke seeping under my door. When I finally walked out, pretending to be fine, pretending the red mark wasn't there, the receptionist couldn't meet my eyes. My reflection in the elevator caught me off guard. My hair was disheveled, eyes hollow. I looked like someone I didn't know, someone whose life had just been rewritten in front of her. When I got home that evening, Alina was already there. Sitting on the couch, barefoot, wine glass in hand, like nothing had happened. Paused by the doorway. The scent of lavender and wine filled the air. "Who the hell was that?" I asked quietly. Her shoulders stiffened, but her tone was calm, too calm. "You already know, Nora. I want to hear it from you." She took a slow sip, eyes on the TV. "His name's Evan. And he hit me in front of my entire staff." She finally turned to look at me. "You provoked him." I laughed, but it wasn't laughter. It was disbelief breaking out of my chest. "Provoked him. He assaulted me." "You wouldn't stop digging into us," she said. "You sent him messages. You showed up at the gym. You embarrassed me." "Us," I whispered. Her silence was the answer. I remember pacing the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence between us. My thoughts ran like wild fireflies. Too many to catch, too painful to hold. "How long?" finally asked. Alina sighed. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." She hesitated, then said softly, "For months. For months. 4 months of my wife lying beside me every night, whispering love into the same pillow she'd drenched with deceit." "Why him?" I shrugged. "He makes me feel alive." The words landed heavier than the slap. Alive. So I was the death she'd been surviving. That night I slept on the couch, or rather I tried to. I could hear her moving in the bedroom, the soft clink of her phone on the nightstand, the faint sound of typing. Probably texting him. I wanted to scream. To walk in there and tell her that she'd broken me in ways she couldn't even comprehend. But I didn't. I just stared at the ceiling, the light from the street lamp carving pale lines across my skin. Every breath felt like a betrayal I had to inhale. The next morning when I walked into the office, people avoided me. My assistant didn't make eye contact. Someone had even removed the framed photo of Alina and me from my desk. I didn't know whether to thank them or feel erased. At noon, a message flashed on my screen. From Alina. He wants to apologize. Apologize. For what? The slap, the affair, or the public humiliation that had become my life? Still I type back. Me tell him to meet me at 5. Lone. At exactly 5 p.m., Evan walked in. The office was empty except for the distant hum of the city outside the windows. He looked just as I remembered. Tall, confident, too self-assured for someone who should be ashamed. "I'm not here to fight," he said, closing the door behind him. "Good," I replied. "Because I'm done fighting for someone who doesn't want me." He studied me, that smug smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "You're stronger than she said." My pulse thudded. Stronger than who said? "Alina," he said. "She told me you'd cry, maybe beg. But you're holding it together better than she expected." Something inside me twisted. "She talks about me to you." He laughed lightly. "All the time. She says you used to be passionate but now you're comfortable. Predictable." It was the cruelest mercy. Hearing the truth from the man who'd stolen everything. I didn't respond. I just let the silence sit there between us. Thick, heavy, cutting. When he finally left, I sat alone in the dark, watching the city lights flicker against the glass. And I realized something I hadn't before. The slap wasn't the worst part. The betrayal wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that I had become invisible in my own life long before either of them arrived to destroy it. The next morning, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror without flinching. The faint shadow of his hand still marked my cheek. My skin had almost healed, but the bruise beneath, the one that pulsed in my chest, was deeper than flesh. For years I'd thought Alina and I were partners, equals. We'd built everything together. The business, the house, the image of a perfect marriage. Now I saw it for what it really was. An illusion sculpted from my loyalty and her performance. That evening I packed a small suitcase. Just clothes, essentials, nothing sentimental. I left the wedding photo on the dresser. Its glass cracked from the night. I threw my phone across the room. Alina was sitting at the dining table when I walked in, scrolling through her phone with that same detached calm that used to pass for confidence. "Going somewhere?" she asked. "Yes." Her eyes lifted. "You're leaving." "I'm stepping away," I said. "There's a difference." She smirked faintly. "Running away doesn't fix anything, Nora." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I fell in love with was still there, hidden beneath the armor of self-preservation and lies. But I wasn't sure she even knew who she was anymore. "Neither does staying," I said softly. She sighed and stood up, moving closer, the faint scent of her perfume filling the air. "You think I planned for this? That I wanted to hurt you?" "I think," I said, "you stopped caring if you did." Her silence was an answer. I spent 3 nights at a small hotel near the edge of the city. The kind of place where nobody asked questions. The air smelled like dust and lemon cleaner, and the ceiling fan ticked with every rotation. Grief came in waves. The first night I cried until I was hoarse. The second night I just stared at the ceiling and replayed every memory, trying to locate the moment when love began turning into something unrecognizable. By the third night I stopped looking for answers. But life has a way of cornering you when you least expect it. On the 4th day, I got an email from my company's board. Urgent meeting, mandatory attendance. When I walked into the conference room, they were all there. The board members, HR, and at the far end of the table, Alina and Evan. It felt like a stage I'd been dragged onto, unaware I was already the punchline. The chairwoman cleared her throat. "Nora, we've received multiple complaints regarding inappropriate conduct and unprofessional behavior in the workplace. We need to discuss your future with the firm." My chest tightened. "Complaints? About what?" Evan leaned back in his chair, smug. "About you creating a hostile environment." My pulse spiked. "You slapped me in front of my staff. After you harassed me," he replied smoothly. "After you showed up at the gym, after you sent messages. We have screenshots." I looked at Alina, waiting for her to say something, to defend me, to tell the truth, but she just stared down at her notes, jaw tight. "Alina," I whispered, "you know this isn't true." She didn't look up. I'm sorry, Nora. I told you this would get worse. The room blurred. Their voices became noise. The slap had been public humiliation, but this was erasure. I wasn't just losing her. I was losing my reputation, my dignity, my name. That night, I sat in my car outside our old apartment, the engine off, the rain streaking down the windshield. The city lights distorted through the water, soft and surreal. Inside the glove compartment was a USB drive, a silent weapon I hadn't planned to use. Months ago, when Alina started acting distant, I'd backed up her work phone to check if she was okay. I hadn't even looked through the files since. But now, I did. The videos were there. Messages, photos, all of it. Their affair, hidden in plain sight. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. Because every image wasn't just evidence of betrayal. It was proof of how deeply I'd ignored the truth. 2 days later, I called a press briefing. I told myself it was for closure, but deep down I knew it was something else, reclamation. The board was there, the staff, even Alina. The air buzzed with quiet judgment and morbid curiosity. I stood before them, holding a folder that felt heavier than paper should. I was accused of misconduct, I began. But what happened wasn't misconduct. It was betrayal, humiliation, and manipulation, both personal and professional. Clicked the remote. The screen behind me came alive with images, texts, and timestamps. The truth spilled out like ink across water. Undeniable, irreversible. Gasps rippled through the room. Alina's face went pale. Evan shifted in his seat, rage flashing across his jaw. "This isn't revenge," I said, voice trembling but clear. "It's restoration. Because silence lets liars rewrite history." For the first time I saw fear in their eyes. Not because of what I showed, but because I no longer cared about losing. When it was over, I walked out to the parking lot, the autumn wind slicing through my coat. I didn't look back. Weeks passed. My resignation was quietly accepted. Evan disappeared from the company, and Alina moved out of our home. I didn't hear from her again, until one evening months later, when a knock came at my apartment door. I opened it to find her standing there, thinner, tired, eyes rimmed red. "Can we talk?" she asked. For a long time I didn't move. The air between us felt like glass, fragile, waiting to shatter. "I don't know if there's anything left to say," I murmured. She swallowed hard. "He left. Evan. He's gone. No. I made a mistake." I looked at her, the woman who'd torn down everything we'd built, and felt something I hadn't expected, pity. "You didn't make a mistake," I said quietly. "You made a choice." Her eyes filled with tears. "Can you ever forgive me?" I thought about it. The years, the laughter, the small kindnesses that once made her home. But forgiveness isn't an act of mercy for the other person. It's a release for yourself. So I nodded. "I already have." She exhaled, a sound halfway between relief and grief. "Do you still love me?" The question lingered in the air like smoke. Took a breath. "I'll always love who you were. But I can't love who you've become." She nodded slowly, as if she already knew. "Goodbye, Nora. Goodbye, Alina." When the door closed, I leaned against it, my pulse steady for the first time in months. A year later, my office had a new nameplate. My name engraved in bold silver above the words, "Consultant, Emotional Resilience Training." It wasn't what I'd planned for my life, but maybe that was the point. Sometimes betrayal doesn't just break you, it remakes you. It strips away everything false until all that's left is truth. And truth, I realized, isn't a wound to heal from. It's a mirror you finally dare to face. That evening, as the sun sank over the skyline, I looked at my reflection in the window. The faint scar on my cheek had faded, but I traced it anyway. A reminder not of pain but of survival. Because the woman in the mirror wasn't broken anymore. She was free.